I guess I'm up for a little bit. I'll do one more video, and one that I'm getting a lot of requests for. The creation of an egregore is perhaps one of the most profound and truly divine acts that a magician can do, because the creation of an egregore is the reflection of the creation of life, and you in that moment in time become a god in a way, and you give purpose, a time, a drive, a beginning, and ultimately an end to a being that you create. And you create this being to serve your will. So I want everyone to really understand the deeper implications of egregore creation. That to create an egregore is to really, through your actions, show that you understand to a degree higher than most how the universe was created, and you understand in some ways the secret to life and the mystery of death. An egregore is first conceived of in the mind. There's a need or a purpose that arises and springs forth. That being said, let me start actually with the most basic of what you would need for an egregore. Go get some clay, and in your need for an egregore, begin to construct what it will look like. And you need to be very symbolic. If you need an egregore that can travel and be a watcher or protect you in the astral plane, maybe you want it to be very fast, maybe you need it to be a strong protective energy, maybe you need it to spy on something, maybe you need it to keep something hidden, whatever. You need to create in the clay the image that best represents that. So if you need a strong protective figure, you'll need to build maybe something that looks like a knight or a barbarian or like an ogre with an axe, or something that really, really captures what protective and strong is. And maybe you want it protective and kind as well, so you'll want to create kind features for its face. If you want something that can spy on somebody, then maybe you will want to create big eyes and big ears. Maybe give it wings, or give it the semblance of very strong legs that it could run up and be quick. These are all things for your own egregore creation, things that you need to keep in mind for the purpose of creating the egregore. The clay is just going to be where the spirit of the egregore rests while it's not doing its task. Once you create the image of the egregore, and try not to be too complex, but if you need that it's to be multifaceted, make sure it has all the tools that it needs. And you can be very creative in this too. Just be sure that you're not shortchanging yourself by giving it too much or not enough. It really is sort of a nice even flow. Because the egregore springs out of the mind, your mind, you will need then, once you have the finished product of what the egregore is going to look like, quote unquote, you need to create a space that you can give birth to this egregore. So before that happened, even then, you need to go through the tree of life, and you need to find out what each of the spheres really mean. So at the very highest, you have Kether. This is the reason for the egregore's existence. This is how the egregore is going to come into play. It is the spark of your own divinity throwing off sparks to create another form of life. Then you'll move into Chokmah, which is the life force itself of this egregore. You need to formulate what its life force is going to be. Is it going to be a strong and wild character? Is it going to be more subtle and soft? And how is its life force going to interplay with those around it? What kind of life do you want this thing to have? You want it to be virile and I don't know, or more wispy. These are things that begin to make sense. Then you need to go into Binah, and you need to give it a life expectancy. You need to give it a focus, because now it has all this life. Life eventually comes to an end. You need to give it a cycle. You need to say, in 3 months' time, this life of it is going to end. And while it's living, these are the tasks and these are the parameters and limitations that this egregore is going to experience. Then you need to go into Hest, and you need to develop within it a sense of purpose, a sense of confidence, a sense of this is who I am, on a very physical level for the egregore. A sense of ambition and drive. Then you need to go to Gebura, and you need to create power for this entity. You need to create, is it going to be a reckless and warrior-like power, or is it going to be a more subtle and sneaky type power? How is it going to defend itself? How is it going to achieve the goals that it needs to achieve? Okay? Then you're going to go to Tipperoth with this entity. And this is where you're going to formulate its great work, which is the work that serves you. And you're really going to imprint how it's going to treat others and what it's expected when it meets other entities and how it's going to affect those that it comes around. So this is where you're going to impart a type of morality for your egregore. Then you'll go into Netzach, which will be, it's emotional. Is it an emotional creature? Is it able to formulate its own creative endeavors, or maybe it's more of a sort of a mindless type being? These are all things that you'll need to come up with that serves your purpose. Then you'll move into Hod, and you will create its rational mind, its thinking mind, its logical mind, and you'll need to decide how logical and how analytical this being needs to be for you. Then you'll move into Yesod, which is the final astral element to make this thing an astral entity. And this you'll even need to, in some ways, create the dreams of this egregore, because its dreams are to fill out its life purpose, and you almost need to dream the dreams for this egregore so that when you place it all these different swirling energies together that formulate this astral entity, and you place it, you draw the spirit down, and it's housed in its Malkuth, in its kingdom, in its physical representation of the clay body, that it has a sense of wonder and splendor like you do. You are basically creating a miniature life form. You are, in essence, in the act of creation as God or the prime creator did. It's really a profound thing to do. And when you begin to think about and list these qualities and formulate these qualities, you will be amazed really how oftentimes attached you become to these egregores. So once you have all this figured out, you'll need to create a space that has all the colors of the tree of life and each of the correct color correspondences, usually done with silk rags or pictures or symbols of these different spheres or the planetary correlations. And you will place this egregore on your altar, and you will draw a circle around it as you are casting a circle, because you are now creating a mini universe into which you will give birth to this entity, for you are now the god of this circle. That's a very profound statement, that you are the god of the circle that you cast. The circle that you cast is a micro-universe to the macro-universe, as above, so below, so within, so without. Very important maxim, not just words. While you are there with this entity, you will then assume what is called the magician stance. And if you look at the Rider-Waite Tarot deck, you will see the magician, and he is pointing to the sky, and he is channeling the energy down onto the table. The magician becomes the great sacred wand. The wand as a tool is surpassed as the magician becomes the wand. So as you channel out all the necessary requirements, and you start with Kether and go all the way down to Malkuth, and you channel all that is into this clay figurine, you give birth to this layer by layer, and you follow what's called the path of the flaming sword. And you are enlivening the qualities of this particular being, which there's a big mystery about that too. But you will say, in the mind, in the sphere of Kether, this is what I bestow upon you. And in the sphere of Chokmah, this is what I bestow upon you. And you will point to, or you will at least look at each color correspondingly to put you more in that space as you draw that energy and channel it down into the egregore. When you finally have all the components pieced together into that egregore, and you've channeled that astral entity down into the egregore, this is the time to seal the deal, and this is when you name it. You name your egregore, because this is like putting the seal on everything that you've done and creating it fully, because God did not create Adam fully until Adam was named Adam. Very important. Has so much more to do with higher Kabbalic symbolism. But a name seals it and gives it full life. Then the egregore can go and do about its what you have asked it to do. You can ask questions of the egregore. It'll give you answers, and then on its appropriate time, you must destroy the egregore. You must thank the egregore. You must mash the clay. You must bury it overnight. For those of you creating egregore, let me know. I'll give you the full detail on how to destroy the egregore. and then you return the soul back to the ethers to allow it to be reincarnated through some other means. So this is Egregore creation. If you need further details, definitely get to me. I will be more than willing to help you out. But this is a powerful process and one that's very, very profound.